welcome to Jack Sports TV with Damian Bell. I'm Pat Donovan. We're going to talk a little bit about the NBA, of course. We are upon the biggest free agent period in the history of the game. This is the equivalent of Magic and Michael and all the old guys, Bird, if they were all free agents at the same time. We've got three of the best players in the NBA in Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and of course LeBron James now as free agents. But what makes, to me, this the most amazing free agent class we've ever seen is if you take those three guys out of the equation, you're still talking about some pretty good players out there on the market. You've got Joe Johnson of the Atlanta Hawks. You've got Paul Pierce. You've got, and we know Paul Pierce is most likely going to stay in Boston, just like Dirk Nowitzki, who is also now a free agent, will probably stay in Dallas. We've also got guys like Amari Stoudemire, Rudy Gay. There's tons of guys right now on the market, and somebody's going to get a whole lot better.
It's a scary time for the NBA right now because when you think of the sports where you're used to seeing your stars where they're supposed to be, you know, the NFL free agency had your favorite players swapping around every year, so you couldn't lock them onto a team. Same thing with baseball. You know, ever since Curt Flood started off the whole free agency thing, it's been the big deal there. But with the NBA, you had comfort in knowing that your stars would be where they are year in and year out. I mean, the last big free agency move you had, I mean, the biggest one last year was Hedo Turkoglu going from Orlando to Toronto, and the people in Toronto are wondering why they even bothered. I mean, there's no guarantee that getting this high-priced free agent will get you anything more than a bigger paycheck to hand out. And even with the big names you have this year, it makes more sense for those guys to stand pat and get a max contract of the team that they're with than to go get a big contract with a new team, establish new chemistry, and hope everything works out. I mean, the last time it did work out was the Celtics when they put those pieces together to make their championship run, and it's still paying off for them, but you're seeing the Celtics get older and older before our eyes. Even the Lakers used to trade 3 and 4 players a year or pick up free agents every year and little role players to try to build that super team. You saw it come together at the right time this year with their championship, bringing in Artest and company. And it's still Kobe's team and 4 other guys, but those 4 other guys actually got it done this year.
Yeah, and Pau Gasol, of course, was the big trade. But we've seen the trades before. We've never seen free agency like this. The last time one free agent was this big was Shaquille O'Neal. Years and years ago, going from Orlando to the Los Angeles Lakers. Since then, we probably haven't seen one free agent of this magnitude, and we've got 3 of them at the same time, which is what makes it so interesting. And then once you get past that 3, again, the level B guys are pretty damn good level B guys. If Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, and Chris Bosh were not free agents today, there'd still be a bunch of teams out there getting ready to spend max money on max contracts, again, on guys like Stoudemire and stuff, and it's really going to be interesting. Of the big 3, I personally, and I'm sure you would agree, wouldn't be surprised to see Dwayne Wade stay in Miami, wouldn't be surprised to see LeBron stay in Cleveland, of course. The guy I think we know is not going to be where he was a year ago is Chris Bosh. Wants no part of Canada and Toronto. Chris Bosh may sign with Toronto as part of a sign and trade to end up in Miami with Dwayne Wade or in Cleveland with LeBron James, but I don't think he stays in Toronto, and I don't think that I don't think that he goes somewhere without one of the other 2 big 3, because they want to get together, they want to form some kind of superpower and have some kind of shot against Kobe and Pau Gasol.
Well, that's the interesting thing with this free agency period. With Dwayne Wade, you can see where it makes a lot of sense for him to just stay in Miami. Yeah, everybody likes to go home, and Chicago's got a nice little nucleus for him to go home to and play for. But the Miami Heat has proven, probably in the last 10 years, that they have no problem making wholesale changes with their starting 5 in their roster to build around a star. They haven't done it in the last 2 or 3 years. But the year they brought in Shaq and won the championship, they traded about 4 or 5 players and put all the pieces in place and made it go. So it makes sense for him to stay there and see if they can make those number of moves and put a big winner around him there. When you look at Chris Bosh, yes, you know that Toronto might not be that place for paradise for him, but if he wants to be the star, he's already the star in Toronto. And yeah, Tracy McGrady left Toronto for greener pastures. Vince Carter left Toronto for greener pastures. They've got the players there. They just got to figure out a way to keep them. And the best way to keep them is to try to get some of those free agents to come up there, build a super team up there away from the media hotbed. You know, some of these players might flourish better without having all the mics in their face. And there's just not that many mics in Toronto. So that might be the spot if they decide to become a player. With LeBron James, you know, in Cleveland, he'll already have what any other free agency team can give him as far as going to the Knicks, going to the Bulls, going to the Nuggets, where they build a whole new team around him. They've done that in Cleveland just about every season for the past 4 or 5 years, where they've given him a new point guard, 3 new bench players, a new center for him to run with. They've done that, and they can do it again easily. They could easily spend the money to bring in a Chris Bosh to pair with him. And Chris Bosh might be the linchpin of this whole free agency period, because we know LeBron, wherever he goes, the team will be built around him. We know where Dwayne Wade goes, it'll be built around him. Same thing with Stoudemire, same thing with Pierce. But with Bosh, he'll be a complementary part to what's already in place. It's not like somebody's going to say, well, come here and be our star. So wherever he goes, that's probably where a lot of the super team building will be. I just can't see it being, I can see it being Cleveland. I don't see it being Miami, maybe Chicago. But he's the pivotal one right now that has a lot of the intrigue as far as what will happen in the season.
And if I am one of these free agents, a guy like Chris Bosh, and I'm not going to go to Miami with Wade or to Cleveland with LeBron, I think that you have to think the most attractive situation is the Chicago Bulls. Rose is a star in the making. If you don't know who he is, you will very soon. And they've just got so many pieces. Luol Deng's a guy that I love. I keep expecting him to do a little more than he has, but I like Luol Deng in his game quite a bit. Joakim Noah doing a lot more in the NBA than I ever thought he would as well. So that's an interesting team there in Chicago, and they may be a star away because Rose is a star in the making. And again, if you don't know him, you will. Rose is just, he's the real deal. I mean, he's probably the top 3 point guard in the league already. And, you know, what I really can't wait to see, is how do some of these fan bases react if you're the New York Knicks? If you're the Los Angeles Clippers, you've spent 2 or 3 years now gearing up for the summer of 2010. You've spent these years basically losing on purpose so that you could have a shot at LeBron James. And now, if he doesn't come there, if Wade does not come there, if you're the Los Angeles Clippers, if you're the New York Knicks, and you're the New Jersey Nets, and you've been planning for this, and you get shut out, of free agency, you're going to look really bad.
Well, that's the strangest thing with the free agency period. Not so much the big-time players, but just the concentration of teams. Of course, you've always heard about Chicago being so available with their free agency dollars. You've heard a little about the Clippers, but it's always been the Bulls, the Knicks, the Heat, the Hawks. Nobody in the West. You know, the championship team is out West. There's nobody in the West saying, let's build this team to go knock out this team that will be playing in the conference, 17 times a year. No Portland, no Oklahoma City, no Houston, which I thought Houston would have been the team to really put it together and make a run with Yao Ming supposedly coming back and putting a good team around him, and McGrady as well. But not Phoenix, not Utah. Nobody's talking about bringing these people in to really go after L.A., and that's kind of scary.
Yeah, and you brought up Utah, and that's a guy we haven't even talked about yet, Carlos Boozer, yet another top-name free agent, another guy that's really going to make this class just an amazing shift of power in the NBA. But the question is, does anybody do enough to get past the Los Angeles Lakers? I think you're going to have to see a couple of those big-name free agents end up on the same team to really compete with Kobe and Pau. It's going to be an interesting offseason. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to probably talk about it more than we want to, but it's going to be a lot of interesting things coming up here as the future progresses. I'll tell you what, speaking of interesting, one of the most interesting things you can do is go over to Vegas Showgirls. Show them a ticket. You get in for free. What the hell?
Hey, you need to understand something, ladies and gentlemen. You're looking at something special right now. Jack Sports TV. It's all things sports. And every week, every Thursday, we cover the sports world like no one else does. You combine us with Vegas Showgirls, you got it all.
Bam.